What's up, world, and welcome back to the Global Frequency. I am your host, Nefarious.
And I'm Frequency Girl.
And tonight we have a treat for you. We have got the one and only Russell Nohelty from Wannabe Press here to tell us all about his current comic book crowdfunding campaign, Ichabod Jones, the complete Lovecraftian dark fantasy comic, available now on Kickstarter.
That's a lot of C's.
That is a lot of C's. Welcome to the show. What's up, Russell? Good to see you.
Good to see you again. It's been too long.
It has. In fact, the last time you were here was for Cthulhu is Hard to Spell, and before that,
it is. I misspell it all the time.
It's the second U. I think is it the third?
The second H usually is.
Yeah, that's it. The H. Yeah.
If you remember, the second H is for horror. I've not misspelled it since then.
I just remember there's a second H.
I just remember it looks weird.
And before that, we had you on with Travis for Cthulhu Invades Wonderland. And now you're here to talk to us about another book about Lovecraftian fantasy. Sensing a pattern here. What is so great about this genre that leads you to write about it so much? What appeals to you about, cosmic horror?
Well, this one is definitely not. It's inspired by the Dreamlands, but it's definitely not the Dreamlands, and it's a Christian apocalypse. So I think, and Ichabod came first. So I really love, the mind screw aspect of Lovecraft's work. There's this looming dread that flows through it, and then when we went to do our follow-up to Monsters and Other Scary Shit, easily our number one fandom that people voted for was Lovecraft. And so it made complete sense. And we just found that these two particular projects go super well together. So the Lovecraftian horror and then the psychological mind screw, they just kind of people that like one tend to like both. And it just became one feeding the other. So, and they've been the two projects in comics that I've been working on for so long while I've been working on the Godsverse Chronicles in my novels. So yeah, it made sense because it's a 1-2 punch, I think. But I really do like this idea that Lovecraft had of just the looming dread of humanity, and whether that is something to fear or something to have hope in. That wasn't his part. I like
the
that
looming
term.
dread.
Yes.
The mind screw, the Christian apocalypse. I mean, those are all very heavy terms when you think about it, but you're able to also play with that with a bit of dark comedy. And you add a little dash of comedy to the horror. And you've also put out, like you said, the anthology Monsters and Other Scary Shit, but you put out Katerina Hates the Dead, the critically acclaimed Godverse Chronicles, the Obsidian Spindle Saga, a book called My Father Didn't Kill Himself, and my personal favorite, and perhaps your most well-known book, I Can't Stop Tooting, a love story. To this day, I cannot get enough of that book. It's just, I love it so much. Of your vast catalog of authored works and your library of published material, which one do you feel most connected to, and why is it Ichabod Jones?
Yeah, I think it has to be Ichabod. So there's two. There's only three potential options here: Ichabod, the Godsverse Chronicles, which includes Katrina and Pixie Dust, and the Obsidian Spindle Saga, which I've been working on for about 5 years now. And it has to be Ichabod, and I think it's because it's always kind of been the ugly stepchild of my line. It started out as easily the worst selling book, but it slowly had a glow up over time until it was selling on par with our best selling books. And it was very heartening to find that fandom. But I think I wrote Ichabod as like, it was my big screw you to publishing. And it was like this book that like shouldn't exist, which are what all of the best books are, really. Just like, how did you make this very weird thing that has all of these like peaks and valleys, and like, really, I think the reason it connects to people is because it speaks like there's so much of me in Ichabod, maybe not like in the murdering part, but in the like trying to find,
or maybe in the murdering part. I've played D&D with you. It was fantastic.
Or maybe in the murdering part. That's true. Or in the murdering part. I'm not going to say. I'm definitely not going to agree to that on air, though.
I gotta say, I read the introduction for what you wrote about this book on the campaign page, and we're going to take a look at that in a few minutes. But I read that and I couldn't help but resonate with it in some way, and look at it and go, that's his kobold. That right there. Like, can you be a person doing terrible things and committing murders and come to terms with that and be a hero? I was like, we need to explore this. We need to like dive into it again. So real quick, let's say hello to the chat. Mo Biggs had a really good comment earlier. My
Mo
father
Biggs
didn't...
is also first, even though StreamYard won't let me bring it up to show everyone. He wrote first, mug me.
He gets his mug.
Yeah. Mo Biggs is officially getting mugged.
That means that starting Friday, Wednesday, right? Starting Friday, it's a new round. Get your 3 in a row, win a prize. Mo Biggs says, my father didn't kill himself. Some people will brag about anything. I mean, you know, those of us that can't brag about that, Mo. We got Collision Bomb saying second, and hi, Mo Biggs. We got 24 Eyes as well. We've got Arrogant Ape down here saying, hello, Freak Fam and chat, working and lurking. He also says that Ichabod is a great series and you should all pick it up. I can't agree more. This book is, you know, it's hot. You started this all the way back in, I think, 2014. When I looked up Ichabod, my sources at google.com informed me that, you crowdfunded it back in 2014. The ISBN lists the publication date as January 28th, 2015. And since then, you've put out a total of 4 96-page books, 16 issues.
Yes, 16 issues. It's weird because
that's a long time. This is a long time to be telling one story. Did you plan the entire arc from the start, or did the series just evolve over time?
Well, originally so Ichabod is a book, and this is going to sound cringy saying, but like literally it exists because of fans. Like, it's the only reason that there's more than one volume of Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter. I've sold a lot of books and done a lot of things, but I've never encountered a fandom in my work like the fandom of Ichabod Jones. And so I had planned for just that first book to be its own thing, which is kind of why it's a standalone. But in 2017, we were going out of print on Ichabod. I was like, it's been a good run. Deuces, like, books go out of print all the time. Monsters and Other Scary Shit just went out of print. Like, it happens. And fans like revolted. They were like, no, you're not going to, this is not okay. Like, we need more story. And so I said, well, you know, if I can raise $16,000 to reprint volume 1 and produce volume 2, then I'll just keep going with it and I'll complete the story that I had lined up at the beginning. So the end, how this book ends is exactly how I've always thought that this book would end if I had a full run of it. So to me, like, this is the exact ending that I've always wanted. I thought it would take 7 volumes to get there. I ended up taking 4. But yeah, in 2010, when we set out to do this, I really thought it was going to be 1 volume. And then I was like, but if it was more, this would be the cool ending. And it's the ending that I ended up writing in the book. And Renzo agrees. And so very rarely do creators get to go out on their own terms. And it's been really cool to go out on my own terms with this book. And I don't know, people might hate it, but it's exactly what Renzo and I intended from the jump.
Well, I mean, we're looking forward to it because it is, I don't want to say like a prolific work. There are other books out there that, you know, they're more than 384 pages, but you've been working on it for so long, and so much has gone into this book. And like you said, 16 issues, that's a pretty big miniseries by today's standards. That's more than a miniseries. It's like 2 miniseries, right? So much of the planning and the journey that you've put into it, I really need to see the final payoff. But I completely agree, and I understand what you mean when you talk about doing it for the fans. It's the only reason this show exists is for the fans and to talk to creators like you. Like we wouldn't be doing this without some sort of like public demand, you know, like we'd just be, you know, we could call each other on the phone and stuff. But anyway, so yeah, you've got a heck of a track record on Kickstarter, right? You got 23 projects under your belt and 600 backed since back in the day. When did you first get involved in crowdfunding?
So I ran my first crowdfunding on Indiegogo in 2011, 2 actually, and both of them, they didn't fail because they were like flexible funding campaigns, but like by any measure, they did not do well. I think one did like $1,200 and one did $400 or something, like not anything to write home about. And so I go all the way back there. And then we had a publishing deal for Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter. When we finally got that back, I said, okay, now this is the reason to bring it to Kickstarter. So I've been doing crowdfunding since 2011, but on Kickstarter since 2014.
Let me say hello real quick to some newcomers. We have got Vengeance Productions with us. Vengeance is here. We've also got Phil Diaz from Zade Comics. And we've got Armin from Submarine Treehouse. He says, I one time asked Russell the story about the bee behind him that looks like him. Do you want to recap that for us very quickly? Because now
before you do,
curious.
I have to say hi to Frog G.
Hey, right, Frog G. I'm sorry I didn't see him hopping into the chat, dropping those links. We also got Jeremy Burtz with us. What's up, Jay Burtz? Glad to have you. So what's up with this bee thing?
Bee is Russell's cousin.
Melissa is our mascot, Melissa the wannabe. Since I'm just gonna, so like Melissa the wannabe, she's our like spunky rebellious bee, named for my friend, one of my creator friends' wives, Melissa, who told me, did you know Melissa meant means honeybee in Greek? And I was like, nope, but that's the name of it now. That's her name now.
Phil Diaz says the bee is awesome. She's sassy. People are digging the bee. Frog G says, back it once, back it twice, back it 3 times, a lady bee. Wise guys, probably. Yeah, you know, that sounds like wise guys. But now you're a USA Today best-selling author, right? And a prolific creator. Surely you don't need crowdfunding anymore, right? So why continue this tradition?
Well, I definitely do need it because we don't sell that many books outside of crowdfunding. And most importantly, I can't physically do conventions anymore. So I've been chronically ill for a long time. And when we came back, I really, really tried to do conventions again, man. I really, really, really tried. And it's just too hard for me to do them. And so like with comics, how do you make money? You make money on Kickstarter and you make money at conventions. And basically with that, and I used to make maybe half of my income at conventions. No, more than half my income at conventions.
That's the way it is.
Now, like I pretty much can't do it, except I still do like local shows, but I really don't travel. And when I and if I do travel, I can't travel with like hundreds of books like I used to. So like really basically like half my income is gone, and it's been gone since 2020. Really, but like it's now probably going to be gone like mostly forever. So crowdfunding becomes even more important. But really, like crowdfunding is pre-ordering. Like, is there ever a time where like you don't want to make direct sales to your fans? No. Like, is that ever like because like over time? I think it's more important to make. It's become more and more and more important to sell directly to fans, and Kickstarter is a platform that allows for that. And frankly, if like Boom and Brandon Sanderson can like use crowdfunding, then like I will never, ever, 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 ever feel bad about using crowdfunding for the rest of my entire life. Because if no one gets on them about using it, like it's Yeah.
Oh, I'm perfectly in support of you crowdfunding and everyone using crowdfunding. I'm just saying, you know, someone who's got a library of books on Amazon, who's got his own website, which is his name, who's got a whole catalog of stuff there for people to order it from. You've got the visibility. You know, that's what I'm saying. Of course, we're going to keep using that tradition. It's a built-in mailing list. It's all your fans compiled,
and they already know where to go to get
exactly. So it makes sense to me. I was just kind of trying to lead you there.
And one of like, I may be like a rather successful large comic creator on Kickstarter, but like outside of Kickstarter, I'm like relatively unknown. So and conventions. So we're making a big push into advertising next year for one of my series, but right now, like Kickstarter is the place to be. And once you've built your fandom on a platform, like you kind of are locked into it, right? Like you kind of are like, well, this is where all my fans expect me to go launch books. So, and I've seen it on Amazon and Indiegogo and all the other places as well. You know, once you've done all of the hard work to like get the platform behind you, like you kind of have to keep using it, right?
Because you made the investment, right?
Yeah, it's like I'm in a positive way pot committed to Kickstarter, you know. I mean, if I go to any of the other ones, who knows what will happen, but like I know what will happen on Kickstarter, which is like I can expect to raise X amount of money. And comics are so expensive. I mean, so a volume of Ichabod cost me about between $17,000 and $19,000 all in with printing and shipping and everything. And I made the last campaign $22,000 on and then $20,000 before then. So like even with doing really well on Kickstarter, the amount that I actually take home on Kickstarter is somewhere between like $2,000 and $7,000 per volume, which is not like, if you're making 2,000 times 4, that's like $8,000 a year, which I've had years where that was the case. If you're doing $7,000, that's like $30,000, which is less than the average income of a person. So like, so you're you know, even though I do pretty well, there's also just the cost of comics is so high. And that's one thing that we're wrestling with right now is how do you keep doing comics when the costs are so high?
Printing is getting expensive. A lot of people are jacking up the prices for
shipping's really expensive and
shipping's bad. You have to make deals with the service providers and with, you know, the people that are providing the manufacturing. That's really what it comes down to, is trying to cut the costs at production. And you and we're gonna have to compare some notes about advertising, because I have some ideas. I want to pick your brain about yours, but we keep talking about how you're, you know, been in publishing since 2011. You've been making your own books. You got 2 long-running series. You know, USA Today has named you, you know, a best-selling author. When did you get your start writing and then in publishing?
Well, in writing, I started probably in 2006. Seriously, I mean, I was on my school newspaper and yearbook and et cetera, but like probably after school, I spent about $35,000 buying gear, and I started making movies that were very mediocre. And we made my first movie in 2007, first and only movie that became a web series in 2007, and then it sat for 6 years in editing, 7 years in editing, something like that, until it was like, just, I no longer cared about it by the time we were done editing it 7 years later, especially because of how mediocre it is. And during that time, 2010 is when I really went into doing comics hardcore. And then we got our first publishing deal in 2011, and then kind of escalated from there until I pulled all of the rights to all of my books from publishers and went out on my own.
All right, I got to know, because you mentioned it earlier. You said, real quick, let's say hello to everybody in the chat who came in. We got Lord Ravener. We got Armin from Submarine Treehouse.
I thought we said hello to him before. Sorry, Armin.
I don't remember.
Hi, Armin.
Yeah, I think we did. Did we? I don't think we did. We've also got a secret viewer on Facebook. I think I know who it is, but I'm not going to say it out loud because he hasn't said hi. But you said it before about Ichabod. You said it was kind of your middle finger to publishing in general. You're telling me you pulled all of your licenses from existing publishers, you brought them back in-house, and you went into self-publishing. Why do you hate publishers so much?
Well, I hate publishers who mess with you. There are some very good publishers out there. They're few and far between. I don't like publishers that mess around with your money, that mess around with your rights, or mess around with like the what they can do for you. And most publishers can't do anything for you. They just can't. They just those that do are often predatory at trying to take 25 to 50% of the rights of your book and then not paying you until like they recoup their costs. And like that's insane. It's an insane business model to make me spend $8, $10, $20,000 on a book, and then you get to recoup your costs before I ever get to recoup my costs. So I learned during that time that it's better to just build your own thing and make it profitable. And then if a project comes along, like Cthulhu is hard to spell, that like just reaches its life cycle and other people want it, then like it's already outlived it's outlived what I'm ever going to do with it. So like we signed a contract for our publisher to continue on with Cthulhu is hard to spell. We're always looking for them to do Ichabod and other and other projects with us. We're in talks to sign like 4 or 5 more books, and I've signed like 50 publishing contracts in my life in the past like few years. Like I'm not anti-publisher. I am anti you taking my rights and not paying me for them. That is what I am 100% anti. And I'm anti paying me on the profit alone after I've invested $10,000, sometimes $100,000. And I am definitely anti getting a boilerplate contract at my level, because like I've done a lot of work specifically for Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter, for instance, Katrina Hates the Dead, that like when I talk to a lot of publishers, and I've rejected many publishers for Ichabod, it always came down to either they wanted rights, which I'm not willing to give, or like they sent me their boilerplate contract that they sent to just anyone. And I'm like, I've spent 10 years, $100,000 building this brand. And like, I'm not saying that it's the biggest brand in the world, but like there is some value above the standard contract for this property specifically. And if you're not willing to like navigate that or pay for the book outright or pay me for like, which none of them are, then like what good are you besides getting me into Diamond or getting me into a bookstore, which
getting
like
into distribution. Yep.
Yes. And like distribution is good, but it doesn't pay. It just doesn't pay.
Why am I paying you more to do that, or letting you take more of the sales to do that than I would be making on my own doing it at a lower threshold or a lower rate? You know, so some of the contracts that I've seen, as far as like for licensing in general, it's the publisher will take 70% of the sales and pay the writer who is providing the licensing rights 30%. I think that that's a little bit restrictive, don't you think, when the creator could be going out and finding ways to monetize the book by going direct to either customers through crowdfunding or to stores rather than going to Diamond. The hard reality
100%.
of it is that like not everyone can go to Diamond. Right. So these bigger publishers, they sit around with their direct connection to Diamond or to previews or their pre-established network of sales stores that they can bring your book to, and they charge you an arm and a leg just to carry the license. A lot of them, on top of that, will do like if it's an actual publishing company, they'll make sure that they are responsible for the certain costs of publishing the book, and you don't even get a say in how the book gets printed, how many copies get printed, what kind of quality the book is getting printed at, what stores it's going to, and that's really taking it away from you. At the very top of all of that, though, it usually gives them the rights to pitch your book for you for adaptation. And it's like,
and often take away your right to pitch.
Right. And you can't then get your own deals. But you know, that's
and you also still have to pay for the book. You still have to pay to produce the book. So like I signed a contract earlier this year, which I was willing to give some media rights to, but they were paying for the book. Like they're paying for the book to exist, and they're doing all of the publishing. And I'm like, okay, like I'm willing to have I'm not unreasonable. I just think it is absolutely unreasonable to ask me for rights and then to produce the book and then not put any marketing behind it. And
that's the last part.
And then also print it terribly. So like if you can fulfill for instance, the book that I'm talking about is a book that like was literally dead. Like me and the artist were working on it together. It was the artist's idea. I wrote it. And eventually they're like, I can't do this without like getting paid. And I was like, I can't pay you because this is your idea. Like, I'm not going to pay you. But I was able to put together a publishing deal where like, they were like, I'll pay for the book that would not exist otherwise. And then you can then go and produce it. And I was like, that is fine. But they're like, we want, I don't remember what the rights were, something like 20 or 25% or some number. But like that, I was like, that is a fair deal. This book would not exist without you. Like you are paying for it. You are taking an amount of rights that I think are acceptable. Well, it's also you're taking that amount of rights while the publishing contract is in effect. If the publishing contract is dissolved, the rights no longer side with you. And that's the other thing is most of these publishers, they want rights in perpetuity. I was like, I always
put a sunset clause in mine, and it's always a term.
Yeah, and often publishers are like, ridiculous. No, I won't do that. But
that's like Motown owning your masters. You know what I mean? It's like this thing is worth so much by the time like 30 years rolls around and you get to say whether or not it gets printed ever again. Come on, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. But Motown pays in advance. Like they pay, like, which is not right. Like it's still not right to do.
They buy you lunch. They buy you lunch while you're in the recording studio. They make sure you get a little.
Well, they pay for the recording time. They pay for some aspect of it, and
it's their recording studio. If I owned a printer and I was like, oh, I'm gonna print your book. By the way, I'm charging you X amount because that's fair market value, even though I own the printer and own the shipping company and own all of the production. But I'm gonna, I'm gonna write in what it's worth here and stick you with the bill. I mean, that's predatory, right? So there's a lot of that behavior out there because most of these people also in publishing they just want to build a catalog and they don't do the marketing or the promotion. For them, it's not about the value inherent in the work. It's I'm just going to grab this IP up and I'm going to have that to show other people. And if it does well, it does well. If it doesn't, I don't care because if it makes money, I have to pay that person anyway. And that I think is stupid.
Yeah. Well, on top of that, what they're built, the worth of their company is based on the books that they own. Like,
yes.
So if there are companies, many who have been discussed in the past year that like literally their only stated goal is to get as much IP because that the simple accumulation of IP makes their company more valuable. And yes, having IPs that are successful is more valuable, but simply owning the IP and having control of it is what they're after. And they're willing to take on creators who don't know better or who are so desperate for validation that they will sign any contract that comes in front of them. That like, and there's still creators like that. Like the thing that I find most abhorrent about this is the taking advantage of creators who don't know better. And there's an entire cottage industry that's built around. It's not even a cottage industry. It's like a mansion industry that is built around knowing creators don't know better and taking advantage of them anyway. And I have such a problem with that because it is our job as people who are veterans, maybe above all else, to like protect the people who are innocent in this.
How else are people supposed to get in dispensers?
Yeah,
exactly. Like I'm just saying, how else are people supposed to like band together and get their book into major stores without listening to someone who apparently has a plan, right? At the very least, written contracts that you write with the person to establish the terms of your working relationship are necessary and they need to be put into place. They're in order to get any of this accomplished, and that's the whole point of writing these entertainment contracts with people. It's because you need to be very clear up front and on the table what is expected of you and what's expected of the other person and the equitable exchange of goods and services that's being provided. Like if someone comes to me and says, I want you to bring my book to stores, I want you to bring my book to cons, I want you to publish my book, I want you to pick up the cost to print my book, there's an established understanding of what that means financially to me as far as the risk that I'm taking on, putting out the money to buy the print run, and then booking the table, doing the travel, shipping the book and all that other stuff, making the network with the stores, advertising the book, et cetera, all that's work and time and investment and stuff. So there has to be an equitable exchange between the two.
And
but the big publishers, they don't do that other part. They'll print the book and then they'll just let it rot. They'll put it on a shelf and that's it.
Yeah. So on top of that, they will put all of the things you just said and be like, these are my expenses and I need to recoup them. But when you say, but these are my expenses, like they're at least equal to yours or more than yours. So like, if you want an equitable relationship, both of these expenses should be counted at the same time. And they say, no. My expenses matter. Your expenses don't. Your expenses are just in producing the book. And you're like, no, you put $10,000 on the table. I put $10,000 on the table. And if you want this to work, like you have to treat me as if I'm an equal partner, and know that that's definitely not going to happen. So anyway, this is a long rant to say, like, I'm not anti-publisher. I'm anti-predatory publisher. It just so happens that almost all publishing companies that publish comics are predatory.
That makes sense. That's not an understatement. Or an exaggeration. I'll say that in my experience, from what I've seen, a lot of comic book companies out there do take advantage of the people who bring their IP to them and say, I want to put this out into the world. What's your thought on how...
Hold on, I'm interrupting.
Okay.
Because we have people that we have to say hello to. We have Hex Ellen Comics.
Hey, what's up, Hex?
Thanks for joining us. We have Hockey.
Hockey has a hat.
He does. I'm so excited that Hockey has his hat again. Welcome, Hockey, and good morning. Mo Biggs had a question, then I have to scroll back. He wants to know, is that the ghost of Mickey Mouse, or is it E.T. sucking the brains out of a Pac-Man ghost?
To your left.
Oh, so that is my book, Lucifer Licorice, that I wrote for Angela Odling to draw. So yeah, that's Lucifer Licorice, who is a spoiled brat prince who's turned into a tea towel ghost, who was turned into a monster by a licorice witch and has to learn how to stop being so bitter. And his friend Moober is a tea towel ghost.
But no one wants to eat licorice. This poor guy. We also got Shadowpunk with us. What is up, Shadowpunk? Glad to see you with us.
And we have El Padrino in the house. What is up, Juanito?
Congratulations on Shadowpunk, by the way. I'm excited to see the book. We got Lucifer Licorice. Now that's a title. It is indeed. So
I got say hi to Jeremy Burtz before.
I said hi to Jeremy Burtz.
Hi, Jeremy Burtz.
So how did you manage to start working with a renowned talent like Renzo Podesta, and how did you land Aaron Alexovich?
So they're two different stories. Two very different stories. The first, they both had the same answer as I asked. And when they told me their rate, I paid it, which is like, we'll get you so far in comics. Like if you just
just pay the rate.
Yes, and like do it without like arguing or being it's just, I mean, it's everything. Like, and be polite and everything like that. So like Renzo, I found on digital webbing, and I was shocked that he agreed to do the book after seeing that he helped Charles Soule launch his career at Image and do so many amazing things. And he's still like is very reasonably priced. I don't know how he does it. I don't know why he does it. I figured his rate would be astronomical now when I came back to him after 8 years. But like he was still a very reasonable rate who loves making indie comics. So like there are a lot of those artists out there who just like they really want to go indie and they just make their living doing the indie thing. And I put out a call and he gave me a test page and it was exactly what I wanted. And somehow it all worked out. And I kind of don't know why that worked out like it did. Aaron Alexovich is one of my favorite comic creators of all time. He does this book called Serenity Rose. And so when it came time to do Monsters and Other Scary Shit, I was so nervous to ask him. This is like, I don't know, some people like Todd McFarlane, like, or someone else. Like, this was like that level for me because I just love his work. Even though it's a really weird indie book that very few people have read, like, I still like, it's still my favorite comic of all time. And I read it every year to be like, it can't still be my favorite comic of all time. And every time I read it, I'm like, nope, it's still my favorite. And so I've known him for years at that point because we met at Comic-Con. And it was another one where I was just like, I emailed him and I was like, I'm just going to take my shot. Like, I got to take my shot. And he was very gracious and saying, yes, I will do this. And what I learned later is most of your favorite artists, like, will do freelance work. Otherwise, they might charge you an arm and a leg for it. But like almost everyone, like, will take commissions or will take other work, especially if it's a one-off, like a cover. And people are much more likely to take a cover than they'll do than the interior work, obviously. Like, I would love to have Aaron and to have Aaron for interiors, but getting him for covers for the series, I wouldn't say like was easy, although it ended up being easy once I got over myself. But like, yeah, it was actually a very like business-like thing. I, again, paid his rate. He told me the rate and I paid it. And I think so much in this business can get done if you just ask for the thing you want. When someone you love is working, to just ask them to like to be part of the project and then pay them whatever they say. It's like, it seems simplified, like really simple, but it's like everything. When people reach out to me and they're like, hey, I have a budget, like, what's your rate? And I tell them and they're like, cool, will you do 8 pages? I'm like, yeah, sure. I have time. Like, I'm very I try and keep under leveraged for all of the things that I'm part of. So like, I'll pretty much work on any project that someone pays me for. It might take me like months. And that was the other thing with Aaron. I needed to give him like 8 months. It's like, I can't do this for like until the end of the year. And I was like, whatever your schedule is. So like, you do have to work with them. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a boring story. It turns out, like, I asked and then they accepted and then we made a business transaction. But like, sometimes it really is.
How did you hire an artist? I hired them. That's what I did. Yes.
Well, so many people don't though, right? I mean, that's kind of the thing, is like, so many people settle for like their best friend who like can draw kind of, or like it's the first person that comes along. And it's like, you know, the comics people don't make a lot of money. And they almost always are unemployed or soon to be unemployed. So like, many of them will like just work for you if you love their work, as long as you give them enough of a lead time and are willing to pay their rate. Right. Yeah, it's not like a movie star who like is making $10 million a year. Like, these are very undercompensated creators. And as long as they do contract freelance work, like, they probably will do contract freelance work for you, unless they are like Jim Lee or Rob Liefeld or someone. And even Rob will like do covers for other people. And so will Jim.
I mean, so does Brett Booth. He's just a little pricey. That's all. So as mentioned earlier, you're an accomplished solo writer, but you've done anthologies and with a whole slew of other talented comic book writers and creators. Which do you find more rewarding? Working alone, calling your own shots and doing your own thing, or writing with/for people as part of a larger anthology?
Definitely. Well, so are you talking about noveling, or are you talking about like making comics with like a creative team?
Oh, I don't read, so just comics.
They're two very different skills that service different parts of my brain. But I would be lying if I said I didn't care more about my own work than other people, than doing anthologies. Like, when something is all of mine and people like it, like, that really means a lot. And I think it takes a lot more out of me and out of most people to share my own work. With an anthology, what's great is you literally never have to talk about your book, your story. Like, you can just spend time gushing about everyone else in the anthology and and then a month goes by and you're like, cool, I never had to talk about my own work. When it's your own work, I mean, you can talk about like Renzo being amazing but like, at some point it comes down to you and your story. But like, people can like the Wonderland book without while hating my story. The same thing with Oz or any of the other stuff that I was part of. So creatively, it's definitely more fulfilling to do my own stuff. But as far as like feeling like part of a community, it's an amazing experience to do anthologies. And I think that everyone should try and do 3 or 4 stories a year at least.
Yeah, definitely. If you're not going to be doing them yourself, definitely connect with other people. I like the feeling of like being energized, working with other people, getting ideas going and percolating and bouncing things back and forth, and then seeing an outline or a beat sheet and then a first draft. And, you know, it's just an exciting creative process for me.
Robin says drawing ARO could start a career renaissance for Liefeld. Orangutans have hands for feet.
That's good, Mo. That's good. I like that one.
Sorry, I
love that.
So I think it's time, right? I think it's time we should talk about the world of Ichabod Jones. What is the setting like? Who are the characters, the antagonists? What's the primary conflict? What obstacles are they going to face? What are the stakes? Give me the pitch.
Sure. So it's a pretty fucked up story.
I'm digging it already.
It's about a mental patient that escapes an asylum and becomes a monster hunter during the apocalypse, but doesn't know if he's killing monsters, humans, or it's all in his head the whole time. So like that's the Lovecraftian mind screw part of this, where throughout the whole course of the 4 volumes, not only am I telling a post-apocalyptic story set in a Christian apocalypse, but I'm also pulling you out and making you question whether anything that is happening is really happening, if it's all in his head the whole time, if he's killing people thinking that they're monsters, and playing with all of that. And with even the art style, we really play with the idea that that it like is this cartoony sort of surrealist hellscape that he's in. And even the fact that, like, how did he get into this hellscape? He just like wakes up in the first panel and he's in this hellscape. Well, that's a weird way to be in a hellscape. You'd think that you'd be part of something. So there's all of these questions that I keep asking and answering throughout it, while I'm telling like a viscerally brutal, violent story about a man who's trying to become a hero in the only world that will have him. And the true like tragedy of Ichabod is, in this world he is a hero, in any other world he is a villain, and if he saves this world he will go back to a world where he is the villain, and yet he does it anyway.
That's very cool.
I really like the the motif there that you're playing with, the like No Country for Old Men kind of situation where you're breeding yourself out of existence. There's something very, like, I guess that resonates with me there. So let's talk about the physical book and the campaign a little bit. So like you said, you've got 16 issues, which is 4 volumes, 4 books, roughly 384 pages of amazing art and story. What's the asking price?
So each volume they're right here. I have all 4 of them actually. So each volume's $40. All 4 for $160. So there's no deal there. But the cool thing about the series is they're all locked in, so they feel like one complete story. So like you have volume 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. As like they feel like one thing. The covers feature the 4 main characters from Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter, and I do a lot of things like they all have the same ribbon and the same interior cover and the same like interior coloring and the same styling and the same style for the back cover, which is like supposed to read like a psychiatrist is typing it on a typewriter. So like there's very little in the realm of like a punctuation and capitalization and such, and that continues on through all like 4. Well, I won't bring that closer so you can see, but yeah, like the goal is to make this feel like you have just read one thing and that it can live on your shelf as like one specific piece of art.
What about like a really dope slipcase?
I would love to do a slipcase. We ended up not doing it for this time just because time ran out before the campaign started. But we would love to,
like, making a slipcase.
Yeah.
It can be,
there's a lot of design and stuff that goes into it, right?
Yes, I would love to do a slipcase. I've thought about coming back to Kickstarter at some point with a slipcase version of it. we'll see how that goes. But yeah, there's no slipcase, unfortunately, this time.
I'm thinking of doing one for when we do our first volume or on our campaign when we're offering volume 1 and 2, doing like a metal slipcase and calling it a full metal jacket. But
that sounds great.
So
one of the
that's what I was talking to him about.
One of the issues is slipcases. A, they're not cheap to make, but B,
no, they're not.
Like having it as an ad, we couldn't figure because this is 4 volumes in one campaign. It's just like, okay, so then you have the add-on as the slipcase. How do you put the slipcase in all of the things? So we figured that like if we really wanted to do the slipcase, we would want to like have it as the centerpiece of its own like campaign, like one of my students did.
That's true. $40 is a little steep for a book. It is 96 pages though. So,
Each.
or no,
Yes.
is it 96, 90,
Yeah.
90 what?
Yes, 96
92?
pages.
96.
Yeah.
So it's still maintaining that below 50 cents
Yeah.
a page standard. So even though it's a hardcover book, if you compare it to a book that's like $25 for 48 pages, you're still getting a better deal, getting a 96 page hardcover book for $40.
Plus, each volume comes with the audio commentary that I do for every book and the ebook version of every book. And we do have options where you can just pick up the ebooks. They're $10 a piece. But if you go with the adage that like basically a book is $15, a single issue is $15, you're getting for 2.5 issues, you're getting 4 issues of comic. And that $40 also includes shipping. So, I mean, I know it's not the cheapest thing in the world, but when you consider that it includes shipping, that like there's an audio commentary, that there's an ebook version available.
The shipping's a big deal because the weight on 4 hardcover books is not going to be minimal. You know, it's not like a $3 package.
Even right now, you're finding floppies and other graphic
$10
novels
shipping.
that have $10 shipping. So if you're buying a 40-page book for $20 and you then have to pay $10 shipping, you're only spending $10 more to get a hardcover 96-page book with no extra.
Yeah, because you're not paying the shipping cost. That's a very important thing.
Big
difference. I want to take like a big sticker and just like plaster it on there when we don't make people pay for ships. Just says big thing, free shipping, and a giant display.
It's not a giant.
Yeah, no, it needs to be
sticker,
giant,
but it does say.
Straight out of hell. It's
domestic
just straight out of hell. Free shipping.
Yeah.
I would
this
do
is
it
you only
like
get this
stamp,
this bookmark, which I think is really cool.
I know. I love.
You only get
I love
it
that you did a book
the 21st.
like you did a bookmark, man. Because like it's all about stickers versus bookmarks right now.
Yep.
So you're team bookmark, huh?
I definitely am team bookmark, but like I wanted to do a print of the Dukes of Hell, and when I finished it, I was like, shit, that is like almost exactly a bookmark, isn't it? And so and so it just ended up becoming a bookmark, and it's the early bird perk. You also get that as far during the campaign, and if you cut in early, you also get not just these books, but I unlock books every week of the campaign, and usually people get somewhere between 60 and 80 and 100 and somewhere between $60 and $100 of free books on top of that. So yes, it's $40 is a lot for a book, but you get all of the perks that I unlock every week, plus all of the audio commentary and ebook, and the hardcover is really nice. Like if you're judging that a audio commentary is $10 and an ebook is $10, you're paying $20 for the hardcover. Plus, and that includes shipping. And then if you're saying
I'm just worried about the shipping right there, man. The shipping's getting me like I'm already sold on the price of a hardcover book plus shipping for $40. I'm good.
That's a deal.
I'm good.
Yeah, and that includes
because hardcover is heavy.
And
usually the shipping either goes by weight or by fixed price, and the fixed price is usually at least 10. There is no $3. It's $10, right?
Yeah.
So.
We've also included a lot of like premium upgrades, like so a lot of hardcover books are glued in still. These are sewn in at the seam.
Nice.
There's also
you did a sewn in binding.
Yeah.
Yeah, they come with ribbons and front matter and stuff. So like a lot of the hardcovers that you find in stores that are cheap, $15, $20, are they just glue in the binding. And it's not And
It's
so
not
like
the
it's
same
no better
experience.
than a paperback. So like with all
we
of
had
our
to do a
books,
sewn-in
there's-
binding for ours too, so we went up to a sewn-in binding, and at
We
no
understand the
expense,
quality
no
of
expense to the backers.
We
We were
understand
originally
that.
just doing perfect
means.
bound, just regular glue, but then we went to go sewn in to make it, what it needed
A
to be.
better experience.
Well, I
Yes,
just
and-
wanted my two-page spreads to line up correctly.
That's why it's a better
Um,
experience.
Sure. Okay, fine.
and lay flat. Like that's the big thing with
Yes.
the
That's
sewn
the
in
big
binding.
thing, lay flat.
They
Yep.
lay flat. They last for longer, and the 2-page spreads actually do the thing that you want them to do.
Yep.
See, I'm with Shadowpunk on this. I think bookmarks divide. They come between things. They separate them. Stickers, they bring things together. They stick together.
That's
and,
why I'm team sticker mark.
Oh, yeah, sticker Magna mark,
Mhm.
Magna
I mean-
sticker. Oh, whatever. We'll
I mean,
show
we
them
do
when it's
stickers.
ready.
We did this premium sticker for people who returning backers for the gods for the Cthulhu is
Oh,
Hard
hell
to
yeah!
Spell
Look,
book.
it's
So like
Cthulhu.
we've got we I'm not anti-sticker. We did it's just in this case I just thought it was better to do a bookmark. I will say I am pro
We gotta get
on
you
team
back to
sticker versus
conventions.
pin. And sticker versus pin, I am absolutely team pin, like 100%, like no question. But sticker bookmark, I have like no horse in the fight. I just want to give the best experience to the people that are like buying the book, and I think in this particular case, it's a bookmark.
Well, thanks. The advantage of glued-in bindings is that you can repair them yourself. With sewn-in bookmarks, you have to track down a one. It's. I got to get you back to conventions, man. Look at this face right here. Look how happy you are. Look how excited you are.
Well, I will say
It's
that
rough.
anyone can look happy for 1/24th of a second. That's
That is fair.
That's
so
fair.
is my
That's
rule.
fair. You immediately went back to just grumpy cat with shit stuck in your fur.
I mean, you'll be
So what else
surprised
have
at
you
how
got?
many panels, how many times just doing this for 1 second accompanied like me having a headache, a hangover, or a stomach ache. Sorry, what are you saying, Neff?
You sure you don't want to go back to cons? I mean, come on. It sounds like a wonderful time.
Yes.
So what else have you got?
There you go.
Yep.
What other? So we have the pin. Let's see. Do I have the pin somewhere here? I have the
I wanna
pin
see-
somewhere
I wanna
here.
see here, like his stuff.
The pin's super cool. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we have this
Okay, well,
2-inch
then
pin.
scroll down.
Make him big.
All right, I'm going to make him big. He's big.
We have this 2-inch pin
Yep.
that is exclusive.
Nice.
That is our campaign pin for this campaign. It's Lucifer. This is the
What kind of
I don't know
back does
what
it
it
have?
is.
Is it a push pin back or a snap back or okay?
2-pin.
Yeah, it's got the
Two-
two little
Yep.
snappies. Yep.
Two.
Oh, it's got two, so that's gonna stay on nice and
Yep.
nice and snug.
Yeah, and that's available at either the $25 level, and you get an ebook, or at the $60 and above level. So like you also get the pin included if you get all 4 books. So like you get the pin, which is $20 usually, for free if you get more than 2 books. So there's also a way that you have value. We also have like, if you like our mascot, we have some Melissa the Wannabe pins. So like that's pretty much the exact same thing that's on my arm. And then we have other books. So you can see behind me, aside from monsters and other scary shit, you can get Cthulhu 1, 2, and 3, Ichabod 1, 2, 3, 4. Katrina hates dead shit, and Pixie Dust. Any of those in hardcover as well. You can pick up ebooks of any of our novels that are out. And most importantly, these are the people. Last time I was on here, people might be like, well, screw you. I'm not buying your book until you fulfill the Cthulhu is Hard to Spell 3 campaign. Well, I ordered both of these books together. So they're actually coming together at the same time. So while Cthulhu might not fulfill until December, once Cthulhu gets here, Ichabod will also get here, and I'm going to be able to fulfill them both at the same time.
Thanks.
Then that's so. If I gave you just like a cardboard box, could you just go to your shelf and just slide all the books in and mail them to me? Because it seems like you got your whole lineup right there, right?
No, I definitely won't do that. I would pack them very nicely.
Oh, okay, all right. I mean that's nice.
That's
There's
better
some there's some people who would just like haphazardly throw it in there. Okay, so right now you've or I should say at the start of the show, you had 182 backers. You're now at 184. I'm totally taking credit for that.
Nice.
And of course, this campaign launched yesterday, and it's steadily climbing. You're at $8,500. How far do you expect this book to go this time around?
Okay, so I put in my budget for the year 20 grand. That's what we've done the last 2 times. That's what I'm hoping we get to this time. I start. So for this one, I wanted to make it simple. $10,666 breaks me even on the whole series. Anything above that is actually profit from 12 years. So like if I get to 20 grand, it means in 12 years, I will have made about 9 grand of profit on this series, because that's how much it costs to make comics. So if you are thinking, wow, that's that's a lot of money you've made, $85,000 or something on this series. It's like, well, when you put it back there, I've made some money at conventions on Ichabod, but like, honest to goodness, like as far as like the Kickstarter experience goes, like $10,660 breaks me even on the whole series for like the production of it and the printing of it and everything and the shipping of it. So it's just a very expensive series to make, and we want to do it the best way that we can. I'm hoping to get to 20 because, again, that's what I put in my budget for this year. And every other book that we've launched this year has exceeded their budget. So I would sure as heck like to continue that trend. But honestly, I just want it to end well. Like, I want people to find the book. Like, it's such an important book for me that this goes way beyond like money. And some things don't. Some things stop at money. But like for me, this series goes so far beyond money. It's the first book that we launched that was successful on crowdfunding. It's the book that really launched my love of comics. And I think it's the thing that is still the most personal to me of all the things that I've done in my career. So I wanted to do really well. I wanted to do 20 grand, but I also just really want as many people as possible to find it and appreciate just Renzo's incredible art. Like, it's a crime to me that he's not better known in the comics community. But yeah, I mean, some projects, they just burrow into you.
He's worked with some pretty amazing people, though.
He has.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, Charles Soule was for a while like the Marvel like guy, and he helped break him in through 27, which is an amazing book. And he worked on the original Howard Lovecraft and the Frozen Kingdom, which became an animated movie, and a whole bunch of other just absolutely amazing books. And Renzo really loves this book, and I can tell because when I asked, from 2011 until 2019, he would at least once a year ask me if I was going to bring Ichabod back. He would come back and be like, hey, you going to do more Ichabod? You going to do more Ichabod? So like, he really was waiting for this opportunity, and he really brought his A game. But some projects, they just dig deep into your soul, and they like won't let go, and they kind of define you as a creator and your life. And I absolutely think that Ichabod is that book for me that just, even when I tried to shake it off, it just kept coming back, and fans kept talking about it, and fans kept thinking about it. So I know it's a niche book. I know it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. It's very violent. There's no boobs. Like, the character Ichabod is not aspirational. He's very much like a flawed character whose wins are hard fought and too short. Yeah, hard won and short lived, I think is what I said. But like, I think he's a very relatable character that can really, really means a lot to a lot of people. And so monetarily, I would say I wanted to hit 20 grand, but I just want as many people as possible to come and experience the end of this series with me and enjoy a book that has meant a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way of putting it.
I have to read Mo Biggs's comment from earlier when you were talking about Cthulhu is hard to spell. And he said, I'm guessing the delay with Cthulhu is hard to spell is the book is a nightmare for editors.
Yeah, right. Especially since he's missing that second H.
I appreciate that one. Oh, no, that's right. It is hard to spell. See, I told you.
So do you plan to go to stores with Ichabod? I know it is a hardcover book. It's got a $40 price tag, but would you be considering putting it in stores?
It has been too hard to get into stores in the past. If something changes, yes, I am working to try and find a publisher who will do the single issues and trades for Ichabod. That is something that we're actively working on. But if you're waiting for it to come to stores in hardcover form, it probably will not happen. Just because
floppies is fine too. But
yeah,
you do want to put Ichabod in stores.
Yeah. I for sure won't be doing floppies, but if a publisher comes along who wants to do floppies, and we can get a deal that worked out where it's beneficial to both of us, then yes, I would love it to come to stores, because I think there's a whole new world of fans who would find Ichabod in stores as well.
Yeah, that would be dope.
I actually think Josh and Kathy would do it.
Yeah, me too. Would you ever consider bringing it to other crowdfunding platforms like Zoop or Indiegogo?
I generally do Indiegogo after each Kickstarter campaign. So with our big books, I'm sure we'll bring it to Indiegogo after the campaign is over, because it's a big one for us. You can find books 1 and 3 on Indiegogo, I think, right now. I mean, Indiegogo has this thing where if you don't have a sale in 6 months, they take you off of the in-demand platform.
Right.
But what I know is I did put it up there, and I think there was I think within the last 6 months there was a sale. So yes, as far as Zoop or Crowdfunder or some other campaign goes, I'm not sure what I will do in that vein. Zoop seems to be the kind of book that you have to do, they want the first come rights. They don't want the sloppy second rights. So Indiegogo and Crowdfunder seem to be a lot more okay with just getting the sloppy seconds of Kickstarter. So I don't know. To me, this campaign is the end of Ichabod. I have no plans to do anything else with it except sell it on other platforms. Sell it throughout the course until it runs its course. I'm consistently working on other things, and would love to hear any ideas that people have. But yeah, unless there will be an Indiegogo campaign for it afterwards, because it's just way too easy to set up. I don't know when that specifically will be set up, though.
I mean, you'll have to keep us informed, because, I'd love to post and repost about it, because I know there are people who still have issues backing stuff on either Indiegogo or on Kickstarter. And I just think, like you were saying, more people should have an opportunity to get their hands on Ichabod in its entirety now.
Of course.
Reprinted with, hardcovers.
Frog G dropping the link to the volumes 1 and 2 of Ichabod Jones on Indiegogo.
He is. Russell's out here doing the good work, putting out these books. When we were in Boston, Phoenix almost put out. So it's kind of a running thing. Do you have any advice for fledgling creators who are trying to get into comic books or into crowdfunding, with your incredible experience in both those areas?
So I give a lot of advice in the past on this. I'm going to give new advice that I have never given before, or that I haven't given recently. And it comes from me being kind of like the grizzled old veteran doing this, which is you can't buy a career faster. You can't, there's a certain amount of people who buy my books because there's just so many of them. And they go, well, okay, you've put out 4 volumes, been talking about this for 10 years. All right, I'm going to buy it just from the sheer number of books you put out. So I guess you technically can buy your way into a career, because you can buy creating of books, but you can't have those books come out faster. And a lot of your favorite creators, the way that they became your favorite creators was just on the slow, steady pace that they released books over time. And while there are a lot of ways to sell books, and there's a newness factor, and there's a whole bunch of other things, there's a group of people who will not buy from you until it's in trade, right? That's a thing that we hear. Well, to me, the underlying idea of that is I'll buy once you prove you can get it to trade. Once you have enough of a story, I will back you. And you see that people auto back my books, or a whole bunch of other people's books. And they're like, well, how do I get that? And it's you get that by putting out a steady pace of books over time until you have a catalog of books, and you have to talk about certain books for a long time for them to find their audience. And to kind of go along with that, every book has a ceiling and a floor of how many books they will sell. Ichabod's ceiling is very low because the art style is very weird. The style is very violent, so a lot of publishers won't even carry it because it's very, very violent. Like the subject matter is like not a mass market subject matter of like a satire about the apocalypse. So there's a lot of things that bring the floor down. And Renzo, as much as I love his art style, like it is not a commercial art style. Like we're not talking about Galarian here, which just everyone can love, or Destiny New York that just like is such a wide berth commercial art style. So like it has a very low floor also because it's very easy to not pick up Ichabod. It takes constantly talking about it, making books to draw in fans like Cthulhu is Hard to Spell and other things that we do to find fans one at a time. And while I think you should make whatever book you want, and the weirdest books are usually my favorite books, you have to know that when you're putting a package together, every decision you make is going to increase or decrease the ease of which you sell a book. Cthulhu is Hard to Spell that's a very easy book to sell. Like if you like Lovecraft, it's like an anthology of Lovecraft, gods and monsters. I'm in. Ichabod is like a very, very hard book to sell because it's like Lovecraftian, but not Lovecraft. It's like horror, but it's really fantasy. It's like the arts. So you have to know that certain things are going to increase or decrease. No, increase or decrease the amount of books you can expect to sell on the high end. And the amount of books you can sell on the high end is going to be what a publisher looks for, because the publisher is making their money on spread and screwing you over probably, but it's like the quantity of books that they have is what is getting them, like is allowing them to continue to make books because they're selling books way too cheaply for any indie creator to live with. So you have to kind of know that. Like Ichabod is a book that I have a lot of friends who are in publishing and who are publishers and who love my work. And even they're like, I don't know about Ichabod, man. Like it's a tough book. And so you have to be willing, if you're going to make that a book like that, and you want it to be successful, which I'm not saying you need it to be successful, but if those two things are true, then you have to be willing to go out and find people where they are and build a fandom one person at a time, which is less important when you make a book like Katrina Hates the Dead, because you can just be like, look at this hot girl on the cover killing a zombie. And people are like, I want that immediately.
Why isn't it on Kickstarter making $1 million? Yeah. It was, but you get the point. So you faced a lot of adversity and whatnot coming up through the ranks since 2011. What challenges have you had to face making comics or crowdfunding that you would like to warn other people about in particular? You gave advice. Now give us a prophetic warning.
Okay, so my whole career, I've said I want to be either a shiny beacon or a horrible warning. So this is a lot of.
You want to be a morality tale? Don't go near the water.
I don't care. Like people like, I want to be like you, and like, don't be like me. Be better than me. Like I already been me. Like please learn from my mistakes. The warning that I give people the most often is spend 10 times longer finding your artist than you think you need. Because the artist is everything in comics, and it's not because it is because people like focus on the art and not the story. But most importantly, it determines the fandom that you're able to tap into. And again, the quality, like the sheer volume of people who might consume your work. I would also say that over time, usually a book loses backers and gains money over time, and you have to just be okay with that. Like, so volume 2 had 600 backers and raised 20,000. Volume 3 had 475 backers and raised 22,000. So it's like, and we're definitely trending with less backers this time. We're hoping to like make that up with just the people that will buy more books. And you kind of always assume that you're going to go up. Both things are going to go up. And you're like, wow, if I have 400 backers and made 20,000, then if I have 600 backers, I'll make 30,000. And while that is true in some instances, you have to be much more likely scenario is you're going to bleed backers either slowly or fast, and you're going to make more money as the books go on. I would say when it comes to fandom, the warning is people churn and there's nothing you can do about it. So you have to, at the very least, replace the fans that you lost, even if you did everything perfect. So like, even if you did everything perfectly, 2% of your fans are going to be gone every year. They're just going to leave. They're just going to be in your fandom. They're done with you. And so you have to at least make 2% plus a little bit more like of new fans throughout the year if you just want to stay consistent. If you want to grow, you have to add like a lot of fans. And so if you don't think about that, you're going to continually inch down over time until you have a fandom that is unsustainable for your career. So just make sure, like you're thinking about that part as well, because as your fandom goes, so does your crowdfunding success.
Right.
Then there's a third thing that I would warn, which is just because your books are not successful up until this point does not mean that your next book will not blow it out of the water. And I don't know if that's a warning or like a piece of advice, but like,
that's a good one to end on because it's hopeful too, right?
Yeah. Well, and I've seen so many people, and myself included, like we just ran Ichabod Cthulhu like 6 months ago, less than 6 months ago, and like this book is going to do at least less than half of the numbers, the figure of Cthulhu on the best day. That's from the same publisher, with the same creator, with roughly the same audience. Ichabod's going to make half. My novels make half of what Ichabod makes. So like, it's one of these things you have to really think about, like, and I've seen this happen so many times that it just can't be a fluke where like a person will struggle, and then do a different book and blow it out of the water. And so the warning is do not keep thinking you are doomed to project failure. Like if a project does not hit, don't feel you need to do 10 issues of it or 5 issues of it. Get it out in 3, like get it out in the least amount of issues, finish the thing, but like finish the thing, but understand that like use what you've learned to make a better series that will more align with the fandom and the fans and what people want in the marketplace. And you will miss that mark a bunch of times throughout your career. And sometimes something hits the mark and then like Ichabod, it missed the mark, somehow hit the mark, and it's like missing the mark now more. And like, so some things will be ahead of its time, and then like you'll hit it at the right moment, and then it will be behind its time as well, especially when you're doing stuff for 12 years. So in all of that gobbledygook, like there's probably some warning or advice that I would give as far as maintaining a career, not necessarily starting a career. I guess starting a career, just launch anything. Like, don't wait, just launch a thing. Like go and make something and then launch it. Even if you only make $10 from it, like who cares?
At least you did it, and then you know how to do it, and you can do it again. You can do it better, and you can.
Yeah, like once you launch something, you've done it the worst you will ever probably do it. The first time you launch something is probably the worst you'll ever launch anything in your life. So like get that out of the way. My friend did a funny one, which was just like it was Break Kickstarter a couple of years ago, and he did one was just like he drew a giraffe. He's like, every backer can add one thing to this giraffe. And he made like $350 from it. But just like backer 1 would be like, add a hat, add a this. And the giraffe kept changing throughout the campaign. And it was like a very small campaign that didn't last very long. But like you still made $350 on his very, very dumb idea, which I loved very much.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. I kind of want to. I kind of want to see what would happen now if we did something goofy like that. Awesome, man! Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us tonight, talking all about Ichabod, getting into some awesome tangents. It's always so much fun to talk to you. If you guys out there really enjoy the content, please hit the like button. It really helps us out, and also subscribe. We got like lost three subscribers randomly, so
over the weekend.
I don't know who I pissed off. I pissed off somebody, I'm sure. So yeah, subscribe if you haven't already, because Freq Girl was really depressed.
I was crying.
It's not at all flattering.
Okay.
Also, if you want to know when we're going live next, don't forget to click the bell for notifications.
And tune into the frequency.
We'll see you next time.